Vin, so good to see you, man. I'm so excited to be talking to you. I got to tell you, it is 9 o'clock here in Chicago, so I thought you wouldn't mind if I had any beer I wanted, as long as it's a Corona. So I did. So salute to you and your family, my friend.
Live your best life, my friend.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I know you guys are heading toward an ending, and I know that there is a finite end to the Fast saga. Whenever I think of an ending, like the final season of a TV show or whatever the case may be, I usually think there are sacrifices. Sacrifices have to be made. Do you think some of the main characters of the Fast saga should not make it to the end of this story?
What a great question, Jake.
You know, that's the second most original question I've gotten of the day.
I could never give away anything for the finale, just for your viewing sake. But I will say that I think Justin is going to amp up the stakes of our universe in a real way. And nothing's off the table.
No, I don't think that the ending has to mean death. And I think that there are so many different ways to go about finishing the franchise, but I don't want there to be any sadness associated with it.
Well, I think they all need to not make it to the end.
There's been sacrifices made this entire time from 1 all the way to where we at, so I'm sure that there will be more sacrifices made. I'm just hoping one of the sacrifices is not me.
I think I would start some mess if I were to even remotely talk about who shouldn't or who I don't think could or should make it to the end.
Harrison Ford always said, like, kill off Han Solo, like, kill me in Star Wars. Like, I want to be the sacrifice. Like, would you want to be the sacrifice?
Asking me if I want to be the sacrifice is like asking me, do I want to lose my 25,000 square foot mansion in Buckhead? From what I make from the Fast and the Furious after 18 years, you think I'm finna give that shit away because I want to make some Han Solo statement? No, sir.
Yeah, everybody needs to go. Everybody needs to go. You know why? Because when everybody goes, there's a hashtag, bring everybody back.
Wouldn't it be ironic if everyone died except Han? That at the end of the day, Han is the one that's alive at the end of the series.
And he's just walking around lonely.
Oh, Vin has earned the right to be the keeper of the keys in that regard. So I'll let him bear those, and if he chooses to unlock at a certain day and time, I know I'll be the first to know.
To be honest, I'm happy to let that process happen organically, and you know, there's always a point after we've kind of received the script where we have input and thoughts. We can give our thoughts and for our specific characters, but I definitely am like interested to know what the ending will be, because I've heard Vin talk about it, saying how much work he's putting in and how much energy he's putting into it. So I'm really excited to see what he and Justin and the writers have all like come up with, because it's, you know, it's when you think about these movies ending, like, it's kind of like, it feels big, it feels important.
So much of Jacob's story is about wanting to step out of Dom's shadow and sort of be his own man. Early in your career, did you ever experience anything similar? Was there anyone in entertainment who you felt you sort of needed to escape from to be able to succeed on your own terms?
You know, I think human beings, we all kind of go through that in life, no matter what your career, and that just boils down to us not being comfortable enough with ourselves. I'm at a great point where, man, I practice and exercise self-love every day, and that's so I can function as a human being. So I once had those thoughts. I don't have them anymore. I just try to be the best me I can every day.
It was me, wasn't it? I was the person whose shadow that you were trying to escape. I knew it was. You know, I spoke to your Guardians co-star, Chris Pratt, the other day.
Oh,
and
awesome.
We talked about this rumor that I'm sure you've heard, that Fast and Furious and Jurassic World were going to be combined into one sort of epic movie, which is just fun to think about. And he has this fantasy.
I probably would want to see Vin Diesel ride a pterodactyl. And then I could just see him riding a pterodactyl and be like, and he'd look down at Blue and he'd be like, listen, this time you don't mess with Blue's family.
So I was wondering, what could you ever imagine Dom going to? I know as silly as it sounds, but have fun with me. Could you imagine Dom going toe to toe with a dinosaur?
You know, do I imagine Dom Toretto and a T-Rex facing off? First of all, nothing is off the table in our universe. We have to keep that in mind. But will I be working with dinosaurs in the near future? Yes.
Dude, take all my money if you guys do this.
Listen, there's been rumors for years that there's an inevitable meeting, a scene in the future with Dom Toretto and Tony Stark. So nothing is off the table.
Oh my God, I'm dying. How do you think Jacob would hold up against a dinosaur?
Yikes. I'd like to find out.
Could you imagine?
No, I can't imagine, but that means like it's an idea suited for Fast, because I can't imagine it and it's impossible.
I think Mia would be pretty petrified, as anyone would. But I think also Mia's smart enough to distinguish between the carnivores and the herbivores, so I think she'd stick to the herbivores. You know?
She would kind of be like the Laura Dern of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Totally, I like that.
Yeah, I don't see how that could be remotely possible. I don't know, but with Universal Pictures, I can say this: anything is possible.
The idea of Universal combining the Jurassic World series and the Fast and Furious series.
Yes.
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 Yes. I think it sounds awesome. How do you think Han would handle going toe to toe with a dinosaur?
It'd be easy, you know, because Han, see, you know, Han has a secret weapon. You know, Han, I think, aside from the ladies in the film, is the only one with hair, right? I think everybody's bald in the film, pretty much, right? And so he carries around the bottle of hairspray, man, you know, so you get the lighter and there's the psh, you know, the T-Rex comes, you know, he can take them out. So.
Now, this interview is going to get back to Vin Diesel, and when we get to Fast 10, all of a sudden he's going to show up on set with these like long flowing locks that we didn't know that he had.
Yes.
And then he's going to have the excuse to have the hairspray. I would tune in for that.
I think if she could like program it or like build one that she could program, I guess maybe very well.
I think it's amazing. I know it
we'll
sounds
be like
ridiculous.
racing dinosaurs instead.
I think it sounds awesome. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think it kind of sounds amazing. It's funny to think how far this series has gone. If someone were to go back onto the set of the original Fast and Furious and tell you what the plot of F9 would be, what would you have said?
You're crazy. I would have said that's impossible. I would have said stop. First of all, let's go back to 2000 when we made that movie. Our only reference of any movie being sequelized wasn't often a good one. It wasn't at that time in the 80s and the 90s when you sequelized a film, studios invariably were branding, making money off the brand, and not trying to tell an episodic story. Very few filmmakers like Francis Ford Coppola were doing that. And so sequels weren't something that you were trying to do because you were hoping that your film would remain a classic. So it was a different time, and I never knew that I would be challenged with the idea of carrying a mythology so far for multiple decades. And to answer your question, I would have said, you're crazy.
I mean, just if someone were to tell me I'd still be playing Mia 20 years from then, I would be blown away. I think we had no idea that this was gonna keep going and going. So it's a very, very cool thing. And don't you think the first movie still holds its own? I think other than the televisions, TV's really dated. The fact that we're not stealing flat screens. I feel like other than that, it really holds up.
I had run out of ideas myself, so they continue to impress me with how we keep coming up with stuff. The only thing I could think of, the places we haven't necessarily been, that would have been maybe Australia, Africa, But in terms of the continents we've been to, I think we've been to every other continent, man.
You know, it is really interesting to think about how deeply ingrained in sort of the Fast and Furious history that your character is. He goes back really before the events of the first film. I'm sort of curious as to how much of his own story you have fleshed out. If I were to sit down with you and watch the Fast and Furious series, could you sort of tell me where Jacob was sort of parallel during each film? Like, do you know what he's doing during the events of the first movie?
I think that's the glory of the mythology, and I really enjoy how Fast 9 dove into that story and gives you almost a prequel to the mythology, but doesn't give you the whole story. I like the fact that it leaves it open-ended, because it leaves Jacob's journey, personality, skill set, and much, much more wide open for interpretation. What you do get, what you do take away from, is Jacob is certainly a Toretto. He possesses all the attributes of a Toretto. He's Dom's past that Dom has to face, and we learn a little bit more about that as we see Fast 9. But he's also, in many cases, more formidable than Dom, which is very unique to the Fast family.
I noticed you avoided the topic of sitting down and watching a movie with me. Should I take that personally, or is that still very much a possibility?
No, man, I think I'm like everybody else in the world. I can't wait to sit down and watch a movie with somebody else. So absolutely not. We'll do that.
Well, one of the great honors of my life, I started doing these junkets for the fourth film. We were on the rooftop of the parking garage, and which means that I had it was great. Which means I had the great pleasure of chatting with the amazing Paul Walker many times, who was one of the kindest people I've ever met. And one of the things I love about these movies is he's still a character. Like, Brian is still there; he's around. Paul's presence is very much felt in this movie. Why is it important for you guys to sort of continue to mention Brian and literally leave a seat for him at the table? Because to me, that's very beautiful.
Yeah, I think when Paul passed, you know, it had such a massive impact worldwide, and that's because his spirit, as you said, like, a couple of interactions with him made you feel like what his soul was like, because he was such a wonderful, wonderful person. And I think the fact that we can keep Brian alive and honor him that way is such a wonderful homage to him. And so I don't know, I think it's a beautiful way to keep him alive, and I'm really, really happy that we get to do that.
Well, it's important because, you know, Fast is so much Paul. You know, without Paul, to me, there's no Fast. You know, it's like, I mean, we have to honor him, and those are tricky moments, because you know, people can see it maybe as like an opportunist moment, you know, but it's not. I mean, look, I mean, we lost our brother, and you know, we want to keep his memory. We want, you know, we are here because of him, you know, and how do we thank him for that? And I think we have to keep him. I don't know. You know, it's so hard, because, like, you know, we should let the man rest, but then we miss our brother, right? And this franchise is not. It wouldn't be here without him.
Yeah, man. Just keeping his legacy alive, and his family is there with us. So his daughter, his brothers, they all are consulting, you know, we're consulting them on exactly how they want to do certain things. So making sure his family is good with it, and just more importantly, he was so passionate about his charity and his foundation. So, you know, we always want to make sure people understand how much he gave back, and that they still can right now.
You know, and between Transformers and Fast and Furious and now Suicide Squad, which I can't wait to see, I'm now starting to think that John Cena needs to be added to every franchise out there, because you infinitely make a moment better. I'm sort of curious, if you could choose what the next franchise is that you're going to jump into, what is it, and why is it Star Wars?
That was an excellent non-question. We have different perspectives of life, my man. I believe that opportunity finds us. We don't find opportunity. So we'll see what happens.
I got to tell you, man, you and I have been speaking since the fourth film in the series. I'm not old enough to have done all of them, but you've been nothing but kind to me every single time. So to you, sir, I say salute. I know you got 1,000 interviews to do, so I appreciate you taking the time, sir. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Jake. Thank you so much, man. Say hello to Chicago.
Will do. I'll see you at the next one.
All right.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.